Hollywood's golden age gave the world unforgettable stars, flawless smiles, and faces that seemed almost too perfect to be real. But behind the glamour and flashing cameras was a hidden world of painful procedures, secret surgeries, and studio-controlled transformations that audiences were never supposed to know about. From subtle nose jobs to shocking facial reconstructions, some of the biggest legends in cinema were carefully reshaped to fit Hollywood's impossible beauty standards. Today, we're uncovering the secret transformations that changed these iconic stars forever, and by the end of this countdown, you may never look at classic Hollywood the same way again. Number 1. Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe is perhaps the most iconic face in Hollywood history, so famous that even decades after her death, she still defines what classic beauty looks like. With her platinum blonde hair, soft voice, and unforgettable screen presence, she became the ultimate symbol of glamour and femininity. But behind the image of effortless perfection was a carefully constructed transformation that turned an ordinary young woman, Norma Jean Baker, into the world's most famous blonde bombshell. Before fame, Norma Jean was considered attractive but not exceptional by Hollywood standards. She worked as a model and struggled to break into acting, but studios at the time were obsessed with creating highly stylized, unforgettable faces for the screen. Talent alone was not enough. Appearance had to be engineered for maximum impact under studio lighting and close-up cinematography. As part of her transformation, Marilyn Monroe reportedly underwent subtle cosmetic procedures designed to refine her facial structure. One of the most significant changes was a delicate chin enhancement that softened and reshaped the lower part of her face into a more heart-like silhouette. This small adjustment had a powerful effect on her overall appearance, making her face look more delicate, symmetrical, and camera-friendly. She also had refinement work done on her nose, subtly adjusting the tip and structure to make it appear more elegant under studio lighting. These changes were not dramatic in isolation, but together they helped create the unique combination of softness and definition that became her signature look on screen. What truly completed her transformation, however, was the way Hollywood packaged her entire image. Her platinum blonde hair, carefully styled curls, dramatic makeup, and carefully controlled lighting were all part of a larger studio system designed to create the Marilyn Monroe persona. Number 2. Rita Hayworth. Rita Hayworth is remembered as one of the greatest glamour icons of Hollywood's golden age, a woman whose beauty defined an entire era. With her fiery red hair, perfect smile, and magnetic screen presence, she became a symbol of romance and elegance during the 1940s. But behind that unforgettable image was a painful transformation that began long before she ever became a global star, one that changed not just her appearance, but also erased part of her identity. Born Margarita Carmen Cancino, she entered Hollywood with a very different look from the one audiences later recognized. She had naturally dark hair, a low hairline, and strong Hispanic features inherited from her father, a famous Spanish dancer. While her talent was undeniable, studio executives in Hollywood during that era had strict ideas about what a leading lady should look like. Unfortunately, her natural appearance did not fit their vision of an all-American movie star. To transform her into a mainstream star, Columbia Pictures initiated one of the most extreme image makeovers in Hollywood history. The most painful part of this process was a long series of electrolysis treatments designed to permanently raise her hairline. This was not a simple cosmetic change, it involved destroying hair follicles one by one using electrical currents applied directly to the skin. The procedure was slow, repetitive, and extremely painful. Hayworth had to endure these sessions for many months, with each treatment targeting small sections of her forehead and temples. Over time, her natural hairline was reshaped and moved upward, creating a more conventional Hollywood look. There was little to no modern pain relief available, meaning she had to withstand the discomfort repeatedly as the transformation continued. Number 3. John Wayne. John Wayne was more than just a movie star, he was a symbol of American toughness. With his deep voice, steady walk, and rugged face, he became the face of westerns and war films for decades. To audiences, he looked unbreakable, like a man who never needed to change anything about himself. But behind that powerful image was a hidden reality. Even the most masculine icon of Hollywood was carefully maintained by the studio system to preserve his screen persona. As Wayne aged, small but noticeable changes began to appear in his face. In close-up shots, his skin around the jawline and neck started to lose its tightness, and his eyelids began to droop slightly. For most people, this would have been a normal part of aging, but in Hollywood, especially for a star like John Wayne, even minor signs of age could affect casting and audience perception. His entire career depended on looking strong, healthy, and dominant on screen. To protect his image, Wayne quietly underwent cosmetic procedures designed to maintain his rugged appearance. One of the most important was a facelift focused on tightening the lower face and jawline. The goal was not to make him look different, but to restore the firmness that defined his early career. The procedure was carefully done so that his expression still looked natural, especially since Wayne's acting style relied heavily on subtle facial movements and a strong on-screen presence. Later, he also reportedly had work done around his eyes to reduce sagging and tiredness, a common issue for aging actors in high-resolution close-ups. These adjustments were extremely subtle, but they helped maintain the illusion that Wayne was naturally aging slowly and gracefully without losing his strength or masculinity. Number 4. Elizabeth Taylor. Elizabeth Taylor was one of the most dazzling figures in Hollywood history, often described as the ultimate screen goddess. With her violet eyes, flawless skin, and unmatched glamour, she seemed almost genetically designed for stardom. From a young age, audiences believed she represented natural perfection. But even someone as iconic as Taylor was still part of the Hollywood system, where appearance was carefully managed, refined, and sometimes subtly enhanced to meet the industry's impossible standards. Taylor signed a contract with MGM when she was just a child, and as she grew into adolescence, the studio closely monitored her appearance. Unlike many stars who underwent dramatic and secret transformations later in life, Taylor's changes were more gradual and controlled. The studio's goal was not to alter her completely, but to refine her already striking features so she would transition smoothly from child star to adult leading lady without losing her natural appeal. One of the most important areas of focus was her smile. Early photographs show that her teeth were slightly uneven, something that was considered normal for a growing teenager. However, MGM believed that even small imperfections could affect how she appeared in close-up shots. To prepare her for major leading roles, studio dentists began a long-term process of correcting and reshaping her teeth. This was done using early orthodontic techniques and cosmetic adjustments that slowly improved alignment over several years. The approach was careful and gradual, designed to avoid any obvious before and after shock that might draw public attention. Instead of dramatic surgical changes, Taylor's smile evolved naturally as she matured on screen. By the time she reached adulthood, her teeth had been refined into a perfectly balanced smile that matched her already extraordinary facial features. Number 5. Burt Lancaster. Burt Lancaster is remembered as one of Hollywood's most athletic and commanding leading men. With his powerful physique, dazzling smile, and natural charisma, he seemed like someone built perfectly for the big screen. In films like From Here to Eternity, he projected confidence, strength, and effortless charm. Audiences assumed his striking appearance was completely natural, but early in his career, Lancaster's smile was actually far from perfect, and it needed serious studio correction to match the image Hollywood wanted. Before becoming a film star, Lancaster had spent years as an acrobat and performer, which took a heavy toll on his teeth. By the time he entered Hollywood in the mid-1940s, his teeth were uneven, damaged, and visibly worn down. For most people this wouldn't have mattered, but in the film industry, especially during close-up shots, his smile was considered a major weakness. Studio executives believed that no matter how talented or athletic he was, his appearance had to meet Hollywood's strict visual standards before he could become a true leading man. To fix this, Lancaster underwent extensive dental reconstruction arranged by studio specialists. The work included bridges, partial dentures, and early cosmetic dental techniques designed to rebuild his entire smile. Instead of completely replacing his teeth, dentists carefully preserved what could be saved while rebuilding damaged areas to create a uniform, bright, and camera-ready appearance. It was a detailed and highly customized process, especially for its time, requiring precision to ensure his expression still looked natural on screen. The transformation was immediate and dramatic. Once the dental work was completed, Lancaster's entire screen presence changed. His new smile gave him a more confident and charismatic appearance, which helped studios see him not just as an athletic performer, but as a serious romantic and dramatic lead. Number 6. Clark Gable. To millions of movie fans around the world, Clark Gable was the definition of masculine charm. Known as the King of Hollywood, he possessed the confident smile, sharp features, and magnetic screen presence that made him one of the biggest stars of the Golden Age. Films like Gone with the Wind turned him into a romantic icon, and audiences believed his handsome appearance was completely natural. But behind that legendary smile was a secret MGM Studios worked desperately to hide. Long before Clark Gable became Hollywood royalty, he struggled with serious dental problems. Years of poor dental care, smoking, and health issues had caused severe periodontal disease that damaged many of his teeth. By the time he reached his early 30s, the situation had become so serious that several teeth were either badly decayed or already missing. For an ordinary person, it would have been embarrassing enough, but for a man trying to become Hollywood's next leading star, it threatened to destroy his entire career before it even fully began. When MGM recognized Gable's star potential in the early 1930s, studio executives immediately decided his dental issues had to be fixed. Rather than attempting small repairs, studio dentists recommended something far more drastic: removing his remaining damaged teeth and replacing them with complete dentures. It was an extremely painful and complicated process. Especially during that era when dental technology was far less advanced than it is today, the procedures were performed secretly over several months. During filming, temporary dentures were sometimes used while permanent sets were carefully designed for the camera. MGM's top dental specialists crafted artificial teeth specifically to enhance Gable's masculine image. The dentures were slightly larger and more symmetrical than his natural teeth, creating the powerful smile audiences later associated with confidence and charm. Number 7. John Wayne. John Wayne was the ultimate symbol of old Hollywood masculinity. With his deep voice, towering presence, and rugged cowboy image, he became one of the most powerful stars in American cinema. Audiences saw him as tough, fearless, and completely authentic, the kind of man who seemed stronger than time itself. But behind the scenes, Wayne faced the same fear that haunted nearly every Hollywood legend: aging in an industry obsessed with youth and appearance. By the early 1950s, John Wayne was approaching middle age, and the physical changes were becoming more noticeable on camera. Lines around his eyes and sagging near his jawline threatened the tough leading man image that had built his career. Unlike modern actors, stars during Hollywood's golden age could not openly discuss cosmetic procedures without risking public embarrassment. For a masculine icon like Wayne, admitting to surgery would have completely clashed with the rugged image audiences admired. Determined to preserve his legendary appearance, Wayne secretly underwent cosmetic procedures designed to maintain his strong facial structure. His first facelift reportedly focused on tightening the jawline and neck area, restoring the firm, masculine look that had defined his earlier films. The surgery was subtle enough that audiences would never suspect anything unnatural, yet effective enough to keep him looking powerful and camera-ready. The procedures were handled with extraordinary secrecy. Instead of publicly disappearing for surgery, Wayne reportedly used fishing trips and hunting vacations as cover stories while recovering in private. During these periods away from Hollywood, only a small circle of trusted associates knew the truth. Studios were deeply invested in protecting Wayne's image because his entire career depended on appearing effortlessly strong and masculine. Number 8. Sophia Loren. Sophia Loren was often described as one of the most naturally beautiful women ever to appear on screen. With her striking eyes, dramatic cheekbones, and powerful presence, she became an international symbol of elegance and sensuality. Unlike many Hollywood stars who looked carefully manufactured, Loren seemed effortlessly exotic, the kind of beauty that felt impossible to recreate. But behind that unforgettable face were subtle enhancements that helped turn an already stunning young actress into a worldwide icon. Before achieving international fame, Sophia Loren was still trying to establish herself in the Italian film industry during the early 1950s. Producers believed she possessed extraordinary beauty. But they also felt certain features needed to be refined so they would appear more dramatic on camera. Film technology at the time often softened facial details under bright studio lights, and executives worried that some of Loren's natural features were not being fully captured on screen. To enhance her appearance without changing it completely, Loren reportedly underwent subtle cosmetic procedures focused mainly around her eyes and cheekbones. One of the most discussed procedures involved a delicate adjustment near the outer corners of her eyes, designed to create a more defined almond shape. The enhancement was extremely minor, but it made her eyes appear more intense and expressive on film. Combined with strategic makeup and lighting, the result became one of the most recognizable looks in cinema history. At the same time, slight contouring around her cheekbones helped emphasize the dramatic facial structure that later became part of her trademark appearance. Unlike more obvious Hollywood transformations, Loren's enhancements were designed to amplify what already existed rather than create an entirely different face. Surgeons and beauty experts involved in the process reportedly understood that her uniqueness was her greatest strength. Number 9. Cary Grant. Few actors in Hollywood history represented charm, sophistication, and effortless elegance quite like Cary Grant. With his perfect suits, smooth voice, and timeless good looks, Grant became the definition of the classic leading man. Audiences believed he was naturally flawless, the kind of man who never seemed to age no matter how many years passed. But behind that polished image was a carefully guarded secret that Hollywood worked hard to hide from the public. As Cary Grant entered his late 40s, he began to worry about the one thing every Hollywood star feared most: aging. In the studio system, youthful appearance meant everything, especially for leading men whose careers depended on romance and glamour. Grant knew that even small signs of aging could threaten the sophisticated image that had made him one of the biggest stars in the world. Fine lines around his neck and jawline had started appearing on camera, and executives quietly feared audiences would begin seeing him as older rather than timeless. Determined to preserve his image, Grant secretly underwent a facelift during the early 1950s, a time when cosmetic surgery for male actors was almost unheard of. Unlike female stars, who were often expected to maintain their beauty through any means necessary, male actors had to pretend their appearance was completely natural. For someone like Cary Grant, whose masculinity and confidence were central to his public image, revealing cosmetic surgery could have damaged his reputation completely. The procedure was arranged with extreme secrecy. Instead of using studio doctors openly connected to Hollywood, Grant traveled discreetly to a private European clinic under a false name. Reports later claimed he checked in using an alias connected to his birth name, Archibald Leach, to avoid attracting attention from journalists and gossip columnists.